my needs were not being met, and that is again is important because it's important to stay single than not have your needs met because you can give that to yourself. And this guy, as much as I really wanted him to, and he could, he just didn't want to. He didn't want to meet my needs. And they weren't, I wasn't like, oh, I require a cup made from gold and, the finest, I don't know. It wasn't like I wasn't, being too much. But unfortunately, like, being too much, you will never be too much for the wrong people in your life. You will never be too much. You will never be. You'll be perfect. You'll be just enough. You'll be like the porridge, the Goldilocks porridge. Hey guys, and welcome to the Crystalline Podcast. I'm your host, Summer Clark, and I have to apologize for not getting an episode out for weeks. I was so ill, to the point where I couldn't talk. Like, I had the flu, and then I had the cold. I had a cold and lost my voice at one point. It was, yeah, so I couldn't really be here. So thanks so much, guys. Thank you so much, guys, for being patient. I might be a little bit rusty, I'm not sure, but we'll see how this episode goes. So this episode is all about kind of like the idea of, like, I love the idea, the concept of being self-partnered, but it's also mostly about like why it's okay to be single. I mean, some people have been single for years, and that's okay. And we're going to discuss that in this episode. So let's get started. So the weirdest thing happened. Like, I remember waking up. This is like a bloody like, it's a self-talky story. No, a self story. I'm going to tell you a story, and it's going to be go back to me. I don't know. Anyway, so one day I woke up and Emma Watson popped in my head, and I was like, okay, cool. You know, right on. I don't know. Right on. I don't know. It just did. She just did, sorry. And I kind of like later found out why. I had met a guy and he had creeped me out. And I remember thinking, it's like, why can I not have that security? That, like, the protection of the way you feel when you're with someone. It's like, why can I not have that? What's the big deal? Why? Why can I not, there's not going to be a knight in shining armor that's going to stand up for me and fight, you know, because, I was single and I didn't feel like secure in it, like I didn't feel protected. So yeah, I got really creeped out. And then later on, all of a sudden, I thought, why don't you give that to yourself? Why don't you give that security to yourself? Why don't you give that, protection? I mean, I could learn Kung Fu, but I just mean like to be secure in who you are. So if there's anyone creepy, is it Crawling? Creeping around, doing the creep? You could just say, sorry, and weird them out, creep them out even more and say, sorry, I'm self-partnered. And they'll be like, oh, what the fuck is that? Yeah, so yeah, creep them out. I mean, that's the level you have to commit to. It's like if someone's really creepy, you be creepier. That will just change the. No, I'm kidding. If someone's angry, just be more angry. It's like if they're scaring you. I'm kidding. So there's a quote that Emma Watson said. It's from in her Vogue interview she did a few years ago, and I reference this and I'm linking this. I am taking this from another magazine. So she basically says, she's like, cut to 29, and I'm like, oh my God, I feel so stressed and anxious. And yes, we do. As soon as you get to that the big Frio, you get this idea in your head that you have to be on top of everything in life, and it sucks. Like, why do we feel that way? It really sucks. But I felt this with, you know, and I'm gonna go into this guy, and if he's listening, it's like, well, sorry. Um, yeah, I always think I would imagine like if I were to meet his parents and they'll be like, "Oh, so what do you do?" And I would just be like, or like, "Oh, so why don't you have a house, at your age?" And I'm like, this is how I felt. Like, that's the scenario I would imagine. Like, so secure income, and I'll be like, but I don't think that in reality that probably wouldn't have happened because his dad owns a business, and he probably has understood the struggle of what it's like to own a business and, crawl that slippery mountain, which, great. And I remember thinking the other day, I was like, do you know what? This must, like what I'm doing with this podcast is like, this must be like meant to be because I've not had any roadblocks. Everything's just been smooth sailing. And then I met the most condescending person I think I'd met for a long time. Um, and I was like, oh, great, cool. Yeah, I don't know, knock those people out of the park because we don't need them. If there's if there's anyone that you know what you are, just gonna trail off a little bit because I just have to tell you that you're in complete control of your life, okay? And if there's anyone in your life that doesn't make you feel valuable, actually, no, this is actually relevant to the relationships and the freaking situationships people put themselves in. If there's anyone that doesn't, provide value for you, don't, if don't have them in your life. If there's anyone that causes you harm in any shape or form, do not have them in your life. Don't even think, just don't have them in your life because you don't need them. Um, if they're not for you, you don't need them. And I'm considering working with someone else than this consented person because it's like, actually, I'm in control of this and I don't want you here. Is there any form of value that you can give me? No. Bye. So back to this my situationship actually. I'm quite happy about it, but I just have to say about that um it taught me a lot. It taught me so much about myself. And it taught me kind of like not to get hurt. And I'm quite grateful he was in my life. And like I still really miss him. Like he just like there are some things like I'm like, oh, only you would get this joke. Why are you not here? And it's like that's a really hard thing to do. But that's fine. But he wasn't giving me what I needed. Like there was no like my needs weren't met and they were just even if they were basic, they were the basic standard line level of needs. They were not being met. And that was really hard for him to meet them. And it's like it shouldn't be hard for you to meet my needs or anyone else. I mean, like yeah, it does get hard life, especially when you're in that situation. Oh my gosh, guys, I totally met my needs this morning. Wait, what? No, not like that. Oh no. So it was more on the lines of like yesterday. Whenever we have these days that we get lost, I'm not trailing off. I'm totally trailing off. Whenever we have these days that we get lost, and we're not meeting our own needs, we're not putting that oxygen mask on first before we put it on someone else's. That is really bad, and we have days where we get really lost, and I call them ghost days because it feels like you're drifting through life, not knowing what to do, nothing's working out, and you don't get what the results that you want. This I'm gonna go into that topic actually. I was actually gonna go into that topic during my flu during my flu era. Um, but I might actually talk about it next week or next time. But I was gonna say my needs were not being met, and that is again is important because it's important to stay single than not have your needs met because you can give that to yourself. And this guy, as much as I really wanted him to, and he could, he just didn't want to. He didn't want to meet my needs. And they weren't, I wasn't like, oh, I require a cup made from gold and, the finest, I don't know. It wasn't like I wasn't, being too much. But unfortunately, like, being too much, you will never be too much for the wrong people in your life. You will never be too much. You will never be. You'll be perfect. You'll be just enough. You'll be like the porridge, the Goldilocks porridge. Um, it's like I'm not sure. Like I'm trying to like figure. I'm still trying to figure him out, and I think maybe he is on the path to being a great man, but he just not with me. Um, but yeah, it's just not for me. And I think also it's this odd thing where people are doing these situationship kind of things now. And I just don't, and for what, I just don't understand why people are doing this. It's like, there's just no need for it. There's absolutely no need for it. It's like, if you're going to commit, you commit. If you don't, stop wasting people's time. Stop it because they could be with someone, that is that's meant for them. Their knight in shining armor, just polished. I can't even say it. And shiny. And why are you wasting their time? And I kind of realized what he did with me because again, I had the thoughts that Emma had, where she says from this quote, sorry, she said, where is it? I'm just gonna read the whole thing. So, and I realized that it's because there's this bloody influx of subliminal messaging around. Yep. And if you've not built your home, if you not have a husband and you do not have a baby and you're turning 30 and you're not in some incredibly secure, stable place in your career and or you're still figuring things out, there's just this incredible amount of anxiety. And there is. And that's how I felt. And that's how it was kind of like the reason why I actually stopped talking to this guy is because I felt like that and I had this subliminal messaging and I just now I'm like striving for these things and not really actually maybe not the baby part but it was so ingrained in my head that I'm 30, I should probably be getting married now and having a baby, definitely getting a house. It's like, why am I not getting it? And I just got really upset that this guy wasn't meeting my needs in those areas. And these kind of the baby thing and the husband thing, it was all false. It was all false. It was the subliminal messaging that I had, the things that I was surrounded by. And I was just upset. And I lost like a friend because of it, even though we were like, oh God, it's situation shipping it up. But like, it was because of that subliminal message. I lost my friend, and it really did upset me actually to lose him. I was like, oh, God's sake. I wasn't that upset, but I was actually quite numb from it, and I was really like, I'm quite glad that I didn't, you know, have, well, I had time because I was ill, to like, and I still get quite upset about it actually. I'm still, actually, yesterday, oh my gosh, I was like crying in the car a little bit. I was like, oh, I thought we were over this. Oh my gosh. Um, but yeah, there is a lot of that around in your 30s, and it's not okay to have that mindset to think like that because age is just a number. Like, all flowers, as my nan says, she says, it's all flowers bloom at different times of the year. And that goes for you. Like, there's nothing wrong with the situation you're in now. We're all on our journeys. We all have different things to learn. If we were all, okay, on the same, like, journey, like, on the same path, on the same, like, how boring would life be? It would just all be the same, wouldn't it? Like, come on, guys. Like, if we're all going down the same path, like it would just be so boring, and that's what makes life so, the world's an incredible place because everyone's doing something different, and that's incredible. Like, oh, it's like a diverse world out there. It's like you shouldn't, encourage. Sorry, that was, you shouldn't discourage people from being themselves because they're meant to be themselves. You know, they're meant to be whatever they see themselves as. You shouldn't discourage it. It's like a really beautiful thing. The world's like an incredible place. Um, so it really is okay to be single if you're feeling that. Like, it's honestly no big deal. Like, I remember when I was I was so single in uni, and I have been ever since, which is weird because that was like 10 years ago. Oh my gosh. Um, but you know, I used to go to the cinema by myself, and I used to say that, and people like, "You go to the cinema by yourself?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, because nobody gets me in horror movies that I want to watch blood." And no, I'm kidding. No, no, I don't watch. I hate horror movies. They're the worst for me, anyway. Um, but I would go to I'd not sit at the bar, but have a drink or something. Gosh, this is ages ago. This is probably quite a low moment in my life. Not completely, on top of things in my life now, like I am now. But yeah, that was a pretty low moment. And I think the bartender said, she's like, "There's nothing wrong with going on the bar and have a drink by yourself." And I'm like, okay, maybe there might be, but I don't think I was completely depressed. And I wouldn't do something like that now, not with alcohol. Maybe like a coffee in a cafe, and read a book. But yeah, not alcoholic beverage. But yeah, but yeah. Um, I remember reading something actually, and I'm, as you guys may know, I'm totally into like, is it Eastern cultures? I should probably correct that. Um, and their religions, sometimes their way of life. And is it Eastern? No, I'm not actually sure. So I'm gonna say, like, I'm into Buddhism, I'm Zen Buddhism, like Taoism, and all those the principles. Like, I love them. I love reading them. I'm like, oh, so right, this completely resonates with me. So, um, I'm like Eastern because I remember a Bruce Lee thing is totally off topic where he went to Western culture, and I'm pretty sure that's like America. So I'm like, is that Eastern? I have no idea. So sorry if I offended people, but I just don't, I don't know. I can't be precise on that one. Um, so yeah, there was a quote by a Buddha, a Buddha, the Buddha. Um, or is it a Buddha? A Buddhist monk, perhaps, or the Buddha. I'm not actually sure. I'll quote it if it's real. So, they said, "Be friends with yourself." This is not I. This is from my memory. It's not actually the quote. Um, so if you're friends with yourself, if you become best friends with yourself, you'll never be alone. And I was like, oh, yes, I get it. This is me. Um, yeah, so if you become best friends with yourself, you'll never be alone. And you do. You honestly do. And I've got to the point where I'm actually talking to myself. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. And my friend always is like, people are like NPCs. They don't care that you're there. And I'm like, why am I talking to myself? Is this like an insecurity thing? It's like, am I talking to the other person subconsciously, but in my brain? I don't know. I have no idea. Subconsciously. You can't talk to someone subconsciously. Um, but yeah, I was like, is this a thing? Like, why is this start? Can you stop? It's like, I don't like to be judged. I mean, we all get judged. I'm the harshest critic when it comes to judging. I'm like Blair Waldorf standard judgy. And I'm like, oh, I hate to be judged. And, it happened like last week. And yeah, no, not a fan. So, no, no, I'm not judgy. I'm not that bad. I really try to be kind to people at any opportunity because there's no point in being a horrible person. Nope. That'll bring you no joy. Because you never know, because you might be horrible to someone and then you've got like a job interview with the same person like next week or something. So no, thanks. Um, so that's it for this episode, you guys. I really hope we got something. I know it's super rusty, probably not, just not great. So I'm so sorry. But little updates. I don't know if most of you guys might know, I've removed my website, but my newsletter is still there. I unfortunately am, it sounds so silly, but I am, um, it's like all about business stuff, guys. So if you're like done with this, if you got what you needed, just leave. But for those who want to stay updated about things, I'm just going to talk for a couple of minutes. So I removed my website. I didn't find great use for it. I thought this was an unnecessary spending kind of thing. Um, an expense and an unnecessary expense. My God. I thought it was an unnecessary expense because I was like, well, I'm not really using it. And people don't really use, like, people use like Shopify and stuff. It's like, you don't really need a website right now, summer. Um, so yeah, so we're mostly active on Instagram and YouTube community. So any updates, I'll put it on there. I am still really going through my business plan and I have just written up like a policy reminder because I do not want to offend um anyone. I don't want to offend well, of course, but I want to keep up to date with the policies. And I was recording an episode yesterday, but I was super overthinking it. Like I was super overthinking it and I couldn't record the episode until I had this policy list. And I was like, oh, I wasn't offending anyone or doing anything wrong. Maybe did I say one thing? I don't know. But I was like, no, I need to know the policies, what's going on, what I can and can't say for you guys, and just be respectful of that. So I have almost finished the business plan for this podcast, and in the future I will be launching some products, and I can't wait for that. So if you guys want to, there is a newsletter. It is in the link tree, um, in the link tree link under newsletter, and that's what we got so far. And if anyone wants to stay updated with anything that I put out in the future, and I'm really excited about like making these because it's like beautiful and I can't wait. But I'm just so excited, guys. But I just need to, finish this business plan, get the best at this podcast that I can. The actual what you've just heard probably wasn't the best, and I'm so sorry. But it's gonna get better and I can't wait. Yeah, so I'm just trying to do everything right for you guys and not, well, basically not offend anyone and not, not, not like I will, but I'm just trying to get the best experience for you guys. So I guess that's it. There's like a binder, like an actual binder full of stuff that I've been working on. But I don't even know, that binder filled up really fast, and I'm probably gonna have to buy another one. But that's fine, isn't it? Right, guys? Um, yes, but I can't wait for everything to happen, and I'm so excited that you guys can come along for the journey. I will be recording video. I did try yesterday, but my battery was out, and I was like, yeah, great, cool. But I thought I would just get this one out before Valentine's Day, just in case anyone's feeling like super lonely. And yeah, I know we don't like to feel like that, but it's okay because you can give that to yourself. Not in the weirdest way, but like, you can go to museums by yourself and you can go to the cinema by yourself. And if you want, go to a bar by yourself, go to a pottery cafe by yourself, go with friends, have fun because life doesn't revolve around being in a relationship. It really doesn't. No. Also, do not force things because it's just not gonna work out for you like the way you want it. Because if you force things, it's not gonna be right for you. Like I always believe I do believe in Wu Wei because it does like exist and it does happen. I'm just like, whoa, the action, non-action, action. So don't ever force things. The right things will come into your life when, you're ready for it. Okay. It is not the end of the world if you're single. It's perfectly okay to be single. Okay, you've got this. Okay? Now I believe in you and have a happy Galentine's Day, Palentine's Day to yourself if you're single. There's nothing wrong with it. If you decide to be like self-partnered, yeah, cool, go for it. um, but it's not as weird as you think. Like, it's more to do with like giving yourself the security, you know, making sure everything's like okay within yourself, just caring for yourself the way you would a partner. So it's not like a weird thing, like treat yourself. If I do say myself. It's okay. Okay, guys? So thank you so much for listening. Sorry if I bored you about the business part. That's kind of like an update. Late date, down date. Wait, what? Late date? I don't know. So yeah. So I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about this episode. But I'm Tom Clark and this has been the Chris Line podcast.